Most people claim that they are atheists, when in reality, they are just angry at God. They are not atheists. They are just angry at God. Ladies and gentlemen, anger is not proof of your disbelief in God. Anger is just proof of your high expectations on God. And there is another misconception people often carry around, and they think that the moment you start questioning God, you start interrogating his ways, you start interrogating his intentions, you start pushing back on his character, people think that that is you abandoning God. No, that is not you abandoning God. Because questioning God has been happening. Even in the Bible, there are prominent characters who questioned God. You look at Job, you look at David, you look at Jeremiah, you look at Jesus Christ. All of these people heavily questioned God. Job questioned God's justice. Jeremiah questioned God's honesty. David questioned God's omnipresence. And Jesus Christ questioned God's love. So, most people like pretending when they really want to cry and to lament and to just express how they truly feel about a particular situation and how God is manifesting himself in their lives. Most people are being told in modern churches to trust God regardless. But sometimes that trust doesn't work. Sometimes you cannot just force yourself, into agreeing or accepting whatever God is doing in your life. Sometimes you have this intense urge, you have this intense desire to want to know why this is happening. But most people are discouraged from doing that. But in my opinion, if I were to be asked, I think the one and the most important quality that God really values in a person who is following him is sincerity. You have to be authentic, man. You have to express yourself authentically. Like I've always told people, you are not in the business of protecting God's feelings. If expressing your true feelings are going to hurt the feelings of God, then let that happen. Most people constrain themselves. Most people suppress their feelings. Most people have this anger bottled up inside of them, this frustration, this contempt. But they are so scared of letting out such a thing. They are so scared of confronting God because they think that God will be angry at them, God will be mad. Bro, no, you are not supposed to do that. You are supposed to have this genuine personal relationship with God, okay? And most of the time when I talk about God, I oftentimes accuse God of doing, these a lot of things. I'm mad at him, I always address God with this accusatory tone. My attitude towards him is oftentimes negative. And the reason why I usually do that is not because I hate God. And I thought that me doing that makes me an atheist. Turns out it's not, man. Like, that is just me expressing myself sincerely. I am not an atheist. I am just angry at God, and I demand answers that make sense, explanations. I demand him to say something. I demand him to respond. I think the reason why most people are disappointed in God, even if they do not express it, is because people expect a lot. People expect better from an all-knowing, omnipresent, and perfectly good God. People expect a world that has good, a lot more good in it than all the suffering that we are witnessing. People expect justice. In many occasions, people expect justice to be delivered. People expect kindness. People expect love. Okay? Because when people become Christians or people start following Jesus Christ, people expect a little bit of change in their lives. And when people also see a society that is predominantly Christian, they also expect that society to have results, positive results. The consequences of Christianity must be witnessed in that particular society. But each and every single time, people's expectations are not in alignment with the reality that is manifesting. That is when dissonance occurs. That is when people start asking questions. Am I truly in the right place? Have I been cheated? Have I been deceived here? So that is the kind of thing that people naturally do. And those questions are natural because, after all, we are all human beings. And the first instinct of each and every single human being is survival. Whatever we do, it does not matter, even if it's investing, finding love, going to church, believing in whatever. Regardless of what we do, our first instinct is survival. So every single time we associate ourselves with things or we put ourselves in situations that will not promote our survival, it automatically bothers us. It automatically rattles us. And for some people, they find a way to ignore that. But some people like me, it becomes difficult when the expectations are not being realized, when expectations are not congruent to reality. I tend to have a number of questions that I prefer answered. People are in need of a God, but they want a God who works, a God who listens, a God who responds to their prayers, a God who shows up each and every single time is needed, a God who understands, a God who cares, a God who truly loves them. Not just in writing, but in action, man. That is what people want. And you see, this inconsistency is what is driving people away from church, because in our society we have equated pagans or people who do not go to church to people who do not believe in God. Okay, the reason why people are being driven away from God or people annihilate themselves from church is because they do not reap the benefits of associating themselves with God. Yes, there are benefits like, having a sense of community, being part of a small Christian community whereby you reap benefits, a little bit of benefits, but people want assurances. There are questions people wrestle with at night. There are people who experience sleepless nights and they have these questions about their lives. They have these questions about the things they did in the past. They have these questions about the future. They have these questions about, there are feelings that are like these just gross feelings inside of them. And these feelings are kind of pushing them, these addictions. And they have all these questions and they want those questions addressed. And every single time they try to interact with God, to engage with God, God does not show up. God doesn't do anything about it. That is why people just eliminate themselves from these Christian communities. And they decide, you know what? I might as well become an atheist. If God doesn't work, if God doesn't function, if God doesn't show up when it's needed, then I might as well become a fucking atheist. But most people think that becoming an atheist is a matter of stopping going to church. No. Becoming an atheist is a matter of stopping to believe in God. Becoming an atheist is a matter of believing in his absence. Becoming an atheist is a matter of finding a way or getting to a point whereby questions such as why did God let this happen doesn't bother you anymore. But if you're still bothered by the problem of evil in our world, if you still find yourself getting aroused, or you react the moment someone says that God has a plan, something in you just wants to, bro, you still care. You still fucking care. And you're not an atheist. You still believe in God, but you're just in denial. You're angry at God, and you're totally justified. Keep being angry, okay? Keep being angry. Keep asking God questions. Keep trying to find some sort of an explanation to what is happening to you, but do not deceive yourself that you are an atheist. You are not an atheist. An atheist is someone who cannot be bothered by the existence of God. It's someone who doesn't pray. They don't even think about God, because why would they think about something that does not exist? They do not get disappointed when their dreams do not come to fruition, because why would they become disappointed at God when he is merely a fictional character? They don't do all that, man. They don't do all that. So if you still have this anger, man, you're mad. You like every single time you see a child, who is battling cancer, and your first instinct is to ask God why. You still believe in God, man. You still believe in the existence of God, but you are not satisfied with how God manifests himself in the world. And I think I was watching a lecture was it 3 days ago, but a lecture that was being delivered by Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson did say something that I was not in agreement with. He did say that atheists are people who are angry at God. And I was like, no, Jordan. Atheists are people who do not believe in God. They don't care about God. They don't give a shit. Like, they stopped. Because when you're angry, it is an emotional investment you're putting to something. And an atheist does not see a need of putting of investing emotionally, time or anything in something that does not exist. So the guy who is angry and claims that they are an atheist, one of those two things is right. You are angry, but you are not an atheist. You're just an angry person who still believes in God. Let me put it this way. You are an angry person who is let me put it this way. You are an angry person who is in denial about God's existence. That is the thing. An atheist is someone who has ascertained that God truly doesn't exist. How they came to that conclusion, I have no idea, but they have made peace with the absence of God, okay? But for most of us, bro, life is tough, man. Life is so tough to an extent that you just have to keep believing in God, okay? Because for someone like me, I have tried almost everything. The reason why I haven't transitioned into becoming an atheist completely is because I've tried to rely on my intelligence. I've tried to rely on my hard work. I've tried to rely on my connections, a network of friends that I already have, in order to get ahead in life, in order to get myself out of these chains of poverty, in order to become a person of value in my society. But every single attempt I've made without including God has failed. Let me say, all the attempts that I've made with and without God have all failed. Okay? But now, God is the greatest thing I know. God is the epitome of power to me. I cannot think of anything past God. So I believe that if God works wonders, then he can also work wonders in my life. So I cannot just stop believing in God, because if I stop believing in God, then I give up all hope. My greatest hope is on God, bro. That is why it is very difficult for me to just relinquish or abandon or discard my belief in God. So it doesn't matter how many questions I ask. It doesn't matter how angry I get. At the end of the day, I still believe in God's existence because I am required to, or else I lose hope. And if I lose hope in life, I lose everything. A person who doesn't have hope has nothing. I think that is the main or the moral of this or the moral of Job's story. I want us to look at the story of Job. But first of all, I want us to agree that God is the one who tempted Job. It was not Satan. Because you look at the person who summoned Satan was God, or the entity or the party that summoned Satan was God. The party that initiated the conversation about Job's temptation was God, and the party that was responsible for setting boundaries of the temptation was God. So it tells you that God was in total control of this situation. Satan had no desire of tempting Job. Okay, this is just something that he was mandated to do, something that he was, kind of obligated, something that God commanded him to do. But initially, Satan was cool with Job. They were like, okay, Job, you do your thing, I do my thing. We all good, right? We good. So that's the thing. So you look at the story of Job and you realize that even though Job had not encountered God in many ways compared to how the Israelites encountered God in the wilderness, Job still believed in God because his belief served a function, and that function was providing hope. The only thing that Job had, the only thing that kept Job moving, the only thing that sustained Job during this tragedy that was happening to him was that one day God will finally look at him and decide to eliminate all the suffering he's going through. So it was hope. Hope was the one thing that really sustained Job. That is why I said, without hope, you don't have a life, man. Especially if you're in a situation that is just out of your control, a situation that is so intimidating that you have no idea how to get yourself out of that situation. Then the only way you can sustain your life, the only way you can keep going, the only fucking way you don't fantasize about taking your own life and ending things prematurely is hope, man. And that is the only thing I got, man. That is the only thing I got. And ironically, God is my hope, man. It doesn't matter how many questions I ask. It doesn't matter how much I complain. It doesn't matter how many times I express my frustrations and my disappointment. And it doesn't matter how many things I accuse him of doing. All these bad things, man. At the end of the day, I rely on him to get me out of this fucked up situation that I am in, man. I don't want to get emotional, bro. Like, for real. Fuck, man. I just remembered something. Fuck. I just remembered something that makes me tear up all the time. See, the thing is that I wasn't born into a rich family. That's the thing, man. Till now, my parents are still living like, I don't even know how to say it. They're not living a decent life, okay? And every single day I see that, just makes me wanna cry, bro. Yeah. Because I don't want that to be happening. I don't want them to be going through that. I don't want them to be going through that. I look at them, I look at my family, I look at my situation, and I'm like, what should I do to get them, to get my family, and to get myself out of this poverty situation? And every single day I try, man. Every single day I grind as much as possible. Every single day I give it all I got. But no, the universe hasn't smiled on me yet. But I'm still hoping, okay? I'm still hoping that I'm still hoping that maybe one of these days, man, if I just keep doing my thing, man, if I just keep showing up, if I just keep being consistent, if I put in the work, you know, finally something is gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I just know that maybe, you know, one day it will happen. That's why I said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much I accuse God. It is the only thing that can get me out of this, man. And I think I'm just disappointed that with all the faith I got in him, with all the faith my parents have in him. My mother is such a prayerful woman. She prays every day. I don't think she hasn't prayed a day in her life. But God doesn't see that, man. Like, how much more does God want her to pray, man? She's living like a fucking pig. That is not how people are supposed to be living. And she's been praying. But God hasn't had her prayers yet, man. Okay? Let me... So guys, that's the thing, man. I didn't mean that for that to happen. Okay? But it's my situation. And right now, I'm wrestling with a question, such a tough question. Like I told you, I met someone and I don't want to lose them, but I'm scared. If I don't get my shit together, if I don't figure things out, my fears will come true. Okay, my fears will fucking come true. And I'm getting older, man. I'm getting older. And people are starting to, to look at me some kind of way, bro. Like, they have these questions and, sooner rather than later, they will ask me, bro, you've been on this planet for almost 30 years now. What do you have to show for all that time? Okay? What do you have to show for all that time? So, Maze, I just feel like God is letting me down. God is letting me down. God is letting my mom down. God is letting my entire family down, bro. That is why I am so disappointed in him. Okay, to me, I have personal feelings. It's personal for me. Okay, it's personal. So every single time I see people talk about their breakthrough stories, testifying of how much God has been a constant in their struggles, like God has contributed a lot, pertaining the meaning and giving them purpose and fortifying them with strength and aligning the stars, just bringing the right people in their lives, showing them the right doors, just exposing them to luck. I'm like, man, I get mixed feelings, because I get disappointed and hopeful at the same time. I'm like, well, that is what I also believe. I think God is gonna do it for me. But I'm like, why is it taking him so long, man? Like why is my turn taking like forever? When is he finally going to show up for me? When is he going to show up for me? Like, so guys, that is why I cannot help it, but always come back to explore my own personal faith and my personal experience with God, because these are things that I wrestle with each and every single day. Like, to be honest, I haven't seen the power of God in my life. I haven't. Maybe I have, but it's not sufficient for me. Okay, I am not satisfied by the things that God have done in my life. I just feel like there is a lot that he is supposed to do, bro, considering the amount of faith I have in him, considering how much prayerful my parents, especially my mom, is, the degree of dependency that we collectively have in him as a family. I just think that it's not fair, man. I think it's not fair. Okay, I think it's not fair. So that's the reason, guys. So I don't even know what we were talking about. I don't really know. I don't really know, man. Yeah, but I guess we were talking about something to do with the difference between an atheist and someone who is angry at God. Now you get to see why I am angry at God. I am a perfect example of someone who is angry at God. And guys, if you also have the same feelings, you also have you're going through the same situation here, like you have the same perspective, maybe you're not an atheist, you're just someone who is angry at God, and I don't really know how to help you, man. I don't really know how to help you, because I also need help, and I know that the only person or the only thing that can help me is this one guy I am wrestling with each and every single day. Okay, the one guy that I've tried to call on for so long. I've tried to pray, I've tried to kneel down, I've tried everything, I've done everything right, man, but he doesn't seem to listen. So I am trying a different approach, and this approach is not helpful either. So I am in a crossroad and I don't know what to do now. I just don't know how to do. I don't know who to turn to, because I look on my right, there's no one or anything that can really help me, assist me, take me to places that I want to go. Because the thing is that I'm a dreamer, bro. I'm a fucking dreamer. I got a big dream. I oftentimes envision myself doing big things, managing or being in charge of big businesses, saving lives. Like, I don't want to be this, man. Like, I don't fucking want to be this. I don't want to be this. I can do much more, bro. I know I got that potential. I just need a fucking platform, or I need something or someone to enable me to do it. I know, man. I got ideas. I got a big ambition, man. I'm disciplined. I'm the kind of person who puts their mind into something and they do not let go until they achieve the desired outcome. I am that kind of a fucking person. But I haven't gotten an opportunity to show the world what I'm actually capable of. And that thing just eats on me every single day. It fucking destroys me. It just destroys me, bro. Watching myself, wasting all this potential, like being in the fucking casa. What the fuck am I doing here, man? What am I doing here? There are people who, I just feel like there are people who kind of need me somewhere right now. I am needed somewhere. Like I'm supposed to be saving lives. I'm supposed to be instilling hope. I'm supposed to be guiding people in the right path. I'm supposed to be helping people figure out their fucking lives, answer really important questions in their lives. I'm supposed to be helping people see the light, or at least guiding them towards the light that is oftentimes at the end of the fucking tunnel. But I'm not doing that. Look at me, standing, just leaning on a fucking tree. That is not what I want to be doing with my life, man. That is not what I want to be doing with my life. I want to have a legacy, man. I want to die someday, and some people, if not a lot of people, will be like, yo, that guy lived a full life. He lived a full life, and he lived a honorable life. He was useful in the society. He created value. And he also showed other people how to create value. That's the kind of thing I want to do, bro. That is the kind of thing I want to do. I have these ideas. I have these dreams. I have these goals. And the only way to achieve them is by the help of something that is as powerful as God, man. I know there are challenges ahead, all these temptations that I must overcome in order to actualize all these things. And the only way that I'll ever overcome all those things, all those temptations, all those hurdles, is by God by my side, is by having God by my side. But the one God I'm calling on is not interested. I don't know, man. I just know, man. I didn't mean to break down like this, but man, this shit can be, life can be scary, man. I didn't mean to break down, man. I'm sorry, but I hope I did an excellent job of illustrating to you the difference between an atheist and someone who is just angry at God. I think I even did a better job of demonstrating to you how someone who is angry at God really looks like, and you got to witness someone who is angry at God in me. And if you do relate with my situation, if you feel like I am speaking directly to you, then that means you are not an atheist. You're just someone who is angry at God, and you are in denial of the existence of God. Guys, saludos, man. I'm out of here.